Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about being offended by code reviews. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, do programmers feel offended if you say that their new code needs to be reviewed before being merged? Uh, it depends. It depends a little bit on the programmer, but it's also not just about the programmer, it's a little bit about under what circumstances you ask for the code review. So it's very common, it's basically standard practice for all software teams to have a code review of some sort. The only time this usually doesn't happen is when you work on your own project, or if you're working as a freelancer in a team where like they just don't care about this sort of stuff, which is not a good sign usually. But it does happen. So if a coworker of mine or anybody usually asks for a code review specifically, it is because they want you to look at something specific, because otherwise it's going to be picked up by the normal workflow that you kind of use. But there's also a different way of looking at it, and that is if there's no trust between the people working there. And when if, for example, if somebody says that they had this idea or that they wanted to do something and so forth and so forth, and you seem skeptical to the whole thing, and then you basically ask them to do a code review, and they sort of pick up on the idea that this is probably something you're doing because you don't trust them fully, or you don't trust that they know what they're doing, etc., etc. When you are specific, when you're kind of breaking the normal flow of things, when you don't treat things as just another story, but rather you are specific, being extra on their case, or where you're going extra in on making sure that they know what they're doing, that sort of vibe that you can give to people, that is when people might be a little bit offended or feel this or that, right? There are of course people that I've worked with which are minorities like this. Very, very rarely that I see a person like this who are more, they're not offended that they have to do a code review. They're offended that they get comments in the code review. And that's the thing that's usually sensitive, not that someone needs to do a code review. It is the things that you write about their code. The most extreme case I've ever had was a person who took me into a personal meeting trying to get basic. It was such a silly manipulation thing that he was doing. It was so silly. He does this passive weird thing that unfortunately we have to do in PC society, where he asks me how I think about code reviews and when we should put a comment and when we shouldn't put a comment. And I sort of understand what he wants. He wants me to well, he wants me to basically go back on the things that I put on the code review that he did, but he does not want to say that on something like, in this case it was GitHub, because that means that there's a record of the conversation. And he doesn't want to say it outright, so he just puts me in this weird situation where I sit and try to guess what is the problem. Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? No, I just want to know how you think about these sorts of things. That this, oh. And then finally I say, well, I'm sorry, I can't really figure out what it is that you want, because I mean, surely, and then I kind of turn it on him and say, surely we are all humans, and surely, you mean, just as you have to be able to put comments on my code review, I should be able to put comments on your code review. And then I said, and then, I kind of say that, but if you want to talk about this in the future, then we can go. And then all of a sudden now I'm trying to shut down the meeting, and he goes, and then we finally get to the real thing. Well, yes, that is true, but I mean, the comments that you put now, they're sort of, I mean, I didn't get the chance to do my best, and you were rushing me, and then I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and now people are going to see that you put these comments, and then maybe they will think that I'm not a good software developer, and I kind of go, oh dear God. And for context, this is a person with almost 10 years of so-called professional grade software development work under his belt. Anywho, you just kind of smile and you say, yeah, I understand that, but surely you have to be able to trust that other people understand that code reviews are, I mean, nobody's flawless. I have tons of comments on my things when I submit things. I'm not perfect, and surely we need to be able to be okay with that. This did not sit well with this person. And guys, you will know this at some point, that code reviews are sensitive to people. It is sensitive like hell. And it's actually one of the things that I truly believe, this is one of those, I have a few like these markers, I call them, or like these flags for this is a senior, this is a junior, this is a mid-level, etc., etc. One big flag is, have you emotionally detached yourself from the software that you write? That is a sign of maturity as a software developer. And not only as a software developer, it's probably a sign of maturity as a human being. Because for a lot of people, this is sort of, it's almost, in a way, it's almost like, you know, when kids show their drawings to parents and they expect being, you know, they want praise and they want to be praised, but if you tell them that, no, this was actually a pretty shitty drawing, they completely get, you know, they get crushed. And in our society, it seems that we raise people to this mindset that there is some type of prestige when you show your work, and sure, to a certain degree there is. I mean, everybody's a critic, for example, like anything that is made. I mean, holy shit, guys, you want to feel exposed and get a lot of very, very undesired or unsolicited advice on how to do things and being called an idiot and stuff like that. Try to hold up your phone to your face when you're walking to work, making some weird videos, and put them on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We will truly understand each other when you have like a few hundred videos of yourself sitting in a bathtub being called weird, or on a toilet or something like that. So some of us have like kind of reached a point where this is not so much of an issue anymore. But you should know, guys, when you do code reviews, this is like for some people it is literally like you are shitting down their throat if you're not careful. And this is where those soft skills, incidentally, guys, this is where that is one of the main reasons why people want you to have them. Because if you don't maneuver well among other people in these sorts of situations, you will start resenting each other, and you will start trying to fail people's code reviews. And this is something I see all the time, guys. I see people who are extra strict when it's somebody else's code. When it's their code, they get very sensitive and angry if somebody comments on it, etc., etc., because it becomes like a weird, immature game of tag or something, or where you're trying to hurt other people deliberately, and you get very offended if somebody does it back. And that sort of immaturity is actually not that uncommon. It's very uncommon in my teams, because if I see it, I immediately address it. And if you don't fix that immediately, you're gonna go. I can promise you that much, because that sort of immaturity I would have expected from someone who is fighting with their friends in a sandbox, but not from a full grown ass motherfucking human. So what I want you to take away from this is that there are people who are offended if you ask them to do a code review. It really comes down to how you ask. It's very normal to do code reviews, it's basically standard practice, but in some cases people are very sensitive about this sort of stuff. They're not usually sensitive about you wanting a code review unless you make a big deal out of wanting a code review and they feel like you're questioning their skill or something like that. But when you actually do the code review, you should know that learning how to use emojis today is a very important thing. Learning how to speak or write text in a manner that is very non-hostile, non-offensive, etc., etc., is also very important, because people are going to make you walk on eggshells if they're sensitive, if they have that sort of side to them. And depending on your ecosystem, your value system, etc., etc., this can actually turn out really, really poorly for you. And that's why I tell people soft skills do matter on both sides, both for the people who are very sensitive and both for the people who are less sensitive. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to, guys, is that you have to realize that for a lot of people, when they submit anything, and this goes back to school days, if you shit on their work, it's gonna feel bad. And having the empathy to understand how to communicate in a way where you can criticize or like ask for give constructive feedback without offending is one of the most valuable skills that you can have when you do code reviews. Have a great day.